عز وجل في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد ونزلناه عليك الكتاب تبيانا لكل شيء صدق الله مولانا العظيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد والكرم وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم وصل عليه. Whoever was here last week and is not here this week, unless they have a uzr which is legally or ethically acceptable, their absence demonstrates that either the Quran has no interest in them or they have no interest in the Quran. Their attendance was merely speculative, just to see whether what was going on. But in terms of the pursuit or the quest to engage and have a relationship with the Quran is concerned, clearly whatever their excuse is more important than their desire to have a relationship with the Quran. That's not really critical to any one individual, it's a general remark, but it shows you that the city in which we live, Coventry for example, there are thousands of Muslims, but when it comes to the Quran, I can guarantee you if there was a Naad Khan or if there was a Qawwali show, the audience would not only come, they would even pay to come. And for Naad Khans, you don't have to pay to come, but you come with your money full, your pockets full of money to show that how you appreciate the madah, the praise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yet what better praise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is there other than the Quran itself? That was a preliminary remark, which is a bit of a sad reminder to us that we live in a day that people actually have no desire to have a relationship with the Quran. Read it, understand it is two totally different things. For today's session, we are quite okay to not have a copy of the Quran in front of us, but from next week, if you could either bring a copy of the Quran, or there are some copies here, because when we go through the text, it's important to focus on the actual text itself. So, as I said to you in the previous session, I could not simply allow myself to copy and paste what was written in the books. Not that what is written in the books is not worthy of being copied and pasted, but what is written in the books up till now of the Fasir is very consistent with one type of writing. What is required is to project the Quran in a modern light to show that modernity needs, the Quran does not need modernity. The Quran itself. So we start off by the first surah of the Quran. I talked about Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim last week. According to Ahnaf, that is not part of Surah Fatiha. According to Shawafi, that is part of Surah Fatiha. But that's not relevant. What's relevant is that Surah Fatiha is universally accepted to be the first surah of the Quran. It was revealed in Mecca and it was revealed in Medina. So there were two different revelations of it. And I made the remark last week that the entire subject matter of the Quran can be summarized in Surah Fatiha. So you can get any verse and you can tally it back to Surah Fatiha, whatever the subject is. But let's now dive in the deep end. Broadly speaking, you can divide the content of the Quran in 4 parts. I don't mean linguistically. Linguistically, you can divide it into three parts: ism, fi'l, and harf. I'm not interested in a discussion on that, because that discussion would be more relevant for those people who have an attachment to linguistic inquiry. But for the layman, he or she needs to know, broadly speaking, what is this Quran about? Yes, I introduced the subject matter of the Quran, or the contents of the Quran, by virtue of a verse. That the Quran itself gives its own fihist, contents. وَنَزَّلْنَا عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ تِبْيَانًا لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ. It talks about everything. Then I said to you last week that it has a zahir and it has a batin. Zahir is in front of you, batin you have to explore. But from the perspective of subject matter, you can divide the Quran into four parts. And whichever verse you pick up after today, you will ask yourself, which subject does this relate to? It could be that one verse relates to all four subjects. Subject relates to two subjects or three. But what are those broad four subjects? Broadly speaking, four subjects of the Quran, four classifications of the content of the Quran. No one up till now has classified the Quran in the way that I'm about to do. No one in the Tafasirs from 1400 up to now. Now that's not me trying to blow a trumpet and say, well, I'm the first and therefore I need a medal. No, I am putting it into perspective with what we understand to be different things. So when we enter the world of Islam, someone says Sharia, another person says Tariqah, another person says something else. And we don't know how to tally that back to the Quran. The first is Sharia, the obvious. Shaykh, law, or fiqh, Islamic. That approximately 500 verses of the Quran pertain to law. So if deen was just about law, then Allah would have revealed 500 verses and, as you say in your modern lingo, call it quits. 500 verses, here you are. In fact, 500 verses didn't even need, explanation. They were very explicit. Added to the corpus of law through the wahi that was given to him, not necessarily through the Quran, but otherwise. That we call that Sharia. Everyone is happy with that. No school of law has a problem with that. Whichever school of sect you look at, everyone says it is agreed. Sharia as a topic is part of the Quran. The second part of the Quran is called Tariqah. But the problem is, the moment you talk or mention the word Tariqah, what pops into your head? I'll tell you what pops into my head in the modern day. Not by my understanding, but in the modern day, what pops into my head is an ignorant Sufi. Someone who has changed the emphasis of deen into a cultist methodology, where Tariqah is all about how long your beard is, or the color of your cap, or the color of your clothes, or the color of your turban. That's Tariqah. And Tariqah is about being part of a system of bay'ah, which is inherently corrupt as it is. 95% of bay'ah in this day and age is corrupted, because neither does the seeker understand what he's seeking, or the dispenser understand what his role is. Most dispensers within the context of the so-called Tariqah They have sat on their father's or grandfather's legacy, and they actually don't know what they're doing there. They are, for all intents and purposes, is ticking a box. But when we look at the actual meaning of Tariqah, we realize it is something totally different to what we understand Tariqah to be. Now let me just give you one definition of Tariqah as was given by our pious predecessors. What did they understand Tariqah to be? For them, Tariqah wasn't just about bay'ah. Bay'ah, in fact, was part of the journey of Tariqah, but real Tariqah is ethics. So you have an external law, which is Sharia, but you have an internal law. Why do I need to be polite with you? Why do I need to be kind with you? The world in which we live today, when we meet each other, we weigh each other up. Without realizing what we're doing, we're being programmed to weigh each other up. So if you meet a stranger, after your initial salam, you will ask a series of questions to him or her. Who are you? Where are you from? Nationality? What do you study? Where do you work? These questions on the face of it are very innocent questions. But in the back of your mind, you're weighing this person up. And at some stage, you're going to decide whether you're going to ask for his number. Because he's of use to you. But if you decide that he belongs to a very deprived social status, you're going to say, Assalamu alaikum and bye-bye. That's it. So we weigh people up in our minds. But in Sharia, you are not obliged to be polite. In Tariqah means ethics. In the internal law, it doesn't matter who the person is. It is enough for you as a seeker, and I use this word seeker because we're all seekers. The seeker wants to go on a journey. He's seeking something. So whatever he interacts with, whether that's human or animal, whether that's innate object or otherwise, he is courteous. Why? Because what he is seeking, what is the seeker seeking? He's seeking Allah. What's the use of, remember the last week I told you, what's the use of reading the Quran, or wanting to understand the Quran, when you don't want to understand the author of the Quran? What's the use of having a relationship with the Quran if you don't want to have a relationship with the author of the Quran? That's the whole purpose. But there's a saying in English, people miss the wood from the trees. They get so engrossed in the wood, they forget about the fact that this was, a tree in the end. So, the seeker seeks Allah. And therefore, whatever he engages with, he's courteous towards it because he understands, or she understands, that this person I'm speaking to is Allah's creation. And I don't understand who he is, what he is. I will not weigh him. I will respect him unconditionally because he is the creation of the one I seek. How simple is that? This animal in front of me, I don't care how much it smells. I don't care what it is. I am courteous towards it. Ethics, internal law. Because it is the makhluk of. Let me give you a beautiful example of ethics from a great prophet called Hazrat Noor alayhi salam. Noor. And I don't give these examples just for adding a bit of Jack and Ori into the equation. I do it so that we can learn from it and implement it in our lives. So, Noor alayhi salam, his actual name was not Noor. His actual name was Abdul Ghaffar. And Abdul Ghaffar was a very pious person. As a person, he was a prophet, he was a person. One day he encountered a dog on the road as he was walking, it happened that the dog had leprosy. Leprosy, as you know, is a contagious disease. And if you come into contact with it, the likelihood is that you'll catch it yourself. So the dog was quite ugly looking in its extent of leprosy, and it was walking in the same direction as Abdul Ghaffar. And Hazrat Noor, previously known as Abdul Ghaffar, looked at the dog with a degree of hatred. Run away from me. You know, like you do when a dog is walking. Hey, run away from me. And in his heart, he had in mind that I'm shooing this dog away because if he comes near me, I will catch leprosy. So he looked at him in a very, harsh way. So the dog saw and, of course, recognized Nuh alayhi salam, because animals can recognize prophets. The dog looked at this gentleman of Allah and said, "Oh Allah, give me the tongue to speak. Give me the tongue to speak." Allah gave the dog the tongue to speak the language of Nuh alayhi salam. And he said, "Oh no, you despise me because of my disease? Don't you know who gave me this disease? By despising my disease, you have despised the one who gave me this disease. I didn't choose to have this disease on me. The one who created me gave me this disease. I was content with this. But you hated me because of my disease." And so therefore, when Abdul Ghaffar heard this conversation from the dog, that you actually despise my creator, he began to cry, and cry. He cried so much, his name became Naha Yanuhu, Nohan the crier. Nuh means the crier. So therefore, if Nuh alayhi salam would have walked off, no harm done. But ethics, Tariqah dictates that you are a seeker. Okay, the one you are seeking says, before you seek me, tidy yourself up, clean yourself. This is how to do it. Put your head on the floor, starve yourself, go to Hajj. These are what we call ground rules. But when you've done those ground rules, now set on your journey towards me, because Tariqah itself means path, journey. So people think they can change this process by finding a murshid if you don't know what you're seeking. How can someone help you find it? If you don't know what you're seeking, how can someone help you find it? That's why in the day and age we live, the role of the so-called murshid is similar to the RAC or the AA service in the event of a breakdown. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum, what a problem. Can you help me? There's nothing wrong with that. Sahaba used to come to the Prophet. But that is not the object of what Tariqah was designed for. It was to fashion your lifestyle with the ethics. So a huge corpus of the Quran deals with Tariqah. And as we go along, I'll explain it more. And then the third topic of the Quran is called Haqiqat, reality. What is this bottle? Science will tell you something, and it will educate you as to the reality of what this is. But science has been, I would say, in this day and age, science has been hijacked by atheists who are inherently jealous people. When they can't understand the formula of something, they say this is science fiction. And when they can understand it, it becomes science. But just because science cannot understand it, that doesn't mean to say the reality of that thing should be undermined. So for example, a calculator can only calculate up to a certain number. Beyond that, it doesn't have the ability to calculate. Are you going to say that there is no number beyond that which you can't calculate? Say that was the capacity of it. That's it, finished. So, haqiqat, reality, is a very prominent subject of the Quran. But reality of what? Reality of what? The reality of this universe. That's why Allah talks about verses. And when we come on to it, I will say, okay, this verse is Tariqah, this is Haqiqah, this is Shaykh. وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And they contemplate and they think about the creation of the heavens and the earth. Unfortunately, this occupation has been hijacked by Sir David Attenborough. We don't have a Sir David, we don't have a Sir Muhammad Zain who's interested in animals or animal behavior or something. So the province of exploration of this universe is no longer the occupation of the people of the Quran. Who are exploring the universe? People who have nothing to do with the Quran. And yet the Quran says, وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And these people, they reflect on the creation of the heavens and the earth. So therefore, Haqiqat is the reality of this universe. And when the Muslim was close to the Quran and then explored the universe, he found all the answers of the universe in the Quran. And I can give many examples of this. I'm not going to give examples. As we go along, we can say, yeah, look, this is a verse on Haqiqat. There are mind-boggling verses on Haqiqat. The reality of this universe. Okay? There's just so many, I could spend the whole night and it wouldn't be enough. You know, whether that Haqiqat is relating to species that live on the earth or creation that is outside the earth, there is a Haqiqat, there is a reality which our minds cannot fathom. I mean, we haven't been able to fathom everything on this earth, let alone the universe. But Allah talks so casually about the universe. وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي بِمُسْتَقَرٍّ لَهَا ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. This is Haqiqat. وَالْقَمَرَ قَدَّرْنَاهُ مَنَازِلَ حَتَّى عَادَ كَالْعُرْجُونِ الْقَدِيمِ. Allah is talking about the moon, the sun, the solar system. Look at the casual nature. لَا الشَّمْسُ يَنْبَغِي لَهَا أَن تُدْرِكَ الْقَمَرَ وَلَا اللَّيْلُ سَابِقُ النَّهَارِ. This is Haqiqat. And I could go on all night and just recite to you from Alhamd to Al-Dali, just verses on Haqiqat. But we need to know. Because we are part of this network of Alameen. And we need to know, the golden questions which philosophers ask. Does anyone know those golden questions? They call them the golden questions. The three golden questions. Who am I? Where did I come from? What am I doing here? And where am I going? Sorry, that's 4 questions. 4 questions. These are, philosophers call this the golden questions. Who am I? What am I doing here? Where did I come from? What am I doing here? And where did I go? Where am I going? So we are not interested in this. We treat our lives, or actually, let me rephrase this. We have been programmed to deal with our lives like machines. Switch on in the morning and switch on in the evening. There are certain forces that don't want us to think about ourselves. They don't want us to stand back and say, what's going on? What am I doing here? Where did I come from? You see, when you look at who we are as humans, and then when you go further and further and further, when you look from Mars, we're not even a dot. We're insignificant. When we look at ourselves from a physical perspective, in the context of the Alameen, we're insignificant. It's like this carpet has trillions, and not even trillions, more than trillions of atoms within it. Each one is insignificant to my eye, because it cannot even see it. So when you look at human physical existence from a physical perspective, we're actually insignificant in the greater picture. But when you look at the universe and the reality of the human being, then the manufacturer talks to you and says, listen, I know my product. I know all the products, But I'll tell you, the best product in this universe is لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. The insan is the best of creation. Say, huh? If I look at myself from Mars, I can't even see myself. I'm not even a dot. Physically speaking, I'm just a piece of meat, which has a date of birth and a date of death, both of which are determined by humans. Both of which are dictated by humans who don't know what they are talking about. We call them doctors, but they say date of birth 13th of July. What a bunch of liars. If someone says, what is your date of birth? And identifies a date, that is the date you came out from your mother's womb. That's not your date of birth. You were born long, long before this. You existed millions and trillions of years before this. Who will tell you this? Quran. Haqiqat. You are, every one of you, whatever your age, you are trillions and trillions of years old. You don't realize it. Who's telling you this? The Quran is telling you this. You are trillions and trillions of years old. And your superiority is not something that you have advertised. Your Maker says, I've created angels, I've created jinns, I've created jinn, I've created all of these creations. I've created magnificent creation which you cannot even fathom. But you are the best. And you say, me? No, I don't think that. I can't understand that. But why don't you want to understand? It's all there in the Quran. Haqiqat. Reality. Forget about knowing the reality of the universe. If you're not interested in the universe, at least find out about yourself. Who are you? Where did you come from? What are you doing here? Why have you been put through so much trouble? That since the day you were born, there's been trouble that you need oxygen to breathe, and you need food to eat, and you need this, and then you need that. Look at the inconveniences your body goes through since birth. And then the next liar, so the first liar is the one who gives you the birth certificate. And then the next liar is the one who gives you the death certificate. We're both bloody liars. Because they say, sorry, our science recognizes your life at this juncture, and it recognizes your death at this juncture. But the Quran says, no, no, no. You lived before your date of birth. This scientist is lying to you. You lived before your date of birth, and you will continue to live even after your death. How? Don't you want to know? Are you not interested? Or is it just a question of, I haven't got time because I'm not programmed. I am not programmed. You see, we have the power to program ourselves. How? Very simple. If you don't have a PlayStation, buy one. Your mind will program itself that you will take time out for play on it, even though you don't have time. Even though all the excuses are there, you will self-program it. It entertains me. But when it comes to the Quran, look how many people were here last week. Look how many people are here. I'm not criticizing any individual. Are they not going to be asked on the Day of Judgment, what I said last week? Do you not fear that the finger of the Prophet ﷺ could point at you and say, Ya Allah, these people, they discarded my Quran. Do you not fear that you could be that group? Clearly, those who don't attend such sessions, they don't fear. Well, they think, yeah, we've heard it all before. I'm sorry, there's no excuse. This isn't about a PR campaign where I say, please come, because I need the numbers. They give monkeys. My ambition is the same as your ambition. Like you are a seeker, I am also a seeker. And we learn from each other. So, haqiqat, reality. What is the reality of this universe? Who are we? What is our reality? That is one of the major subject matters of the Quran. Sharia, Tariqah, and Aqidah. And then the fourth topic of the Quran is called Ma'rifah. Ma'rifah is knowledge of Allah. You can't say haqiqat of Allah because Allah's haqiqat is beyond our understanding. Our haqiqat, by virtue of being creation, or the haqiqat of the universe, by virtue of being creation, has a beginning, has an ending. So you can't say haqiqat of universe and haqiqat of Allah all in one. No. That's why the people of understanding, they create a separate category and call it ma'rifah. Ma'rifah means acquaintance of Allah. Who is Allah? After all, what is all this? Jabke tujh bin nahi koi mawjood, Ghalib says. In his days of madness, he says, Jabke tujh bin nahi koi mawjood, phir ilahi ya hangama kya hai? If you are everything, then what's going on here? Jabke tujh bin nahi koi mawjood. If I am nothing, and you are the only one who has wujood, then phir ilahi ya hangama kya hai? What is going on here? Explain this to me. But unfortunately, we are preoccupied. We don't program ourselves to want to find out. We are programmed. No. Or we feel that we have a bad habit, and therefore that habit prevents us from going on this journey. Well, no one is perfect. I can certainly talk about myself. There'll never be a point where you can say, okay, now I'm perfect, now I can go on this journey. We're all imperfect. But the beauty is, despite our imperfection, our Creator says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. An angel cannot do anything that is imperfect. An angel is perfect. But Allah raises the rank of the imperfect over the perfect. Ajib. Have you ever heard a hadith, any hadith, where a human being is serving an angel? Never. Never. No school of thought talks about that hadith. But there are many hadiths which talk about angels serving human beings. The perfect serves the imperfect. Because this perfection and imperfection is in our eyes. The manufacturer knows better. And he understands. And when people, seekers, like one seeker, his name was Allama Iqbal, when he went on this journey, he tried, last week I told you when he attended, or in his mind he attended the Majlis of Iblis, and he said, Janta hu ki ummat hamil Quran nahi. When he said that, likewise, he also transcribed a discussion which the angels had with Allah. And they complained about who? The seeker. The seeker's name was Iqbal, Allama Iqbal. The angels were complaining to Allah. And then he says, Ki haq se farishton ne Iqbal ki ghammazi. The angels complained to Allah about Allama Iqbal. Ki haq se farishton ne Iqbal ki ghammazi. Gustakh hai ye. Gustakh hai ye. Karta hai fitrat ki hinabandi. I was stuck on this chair for many, many months, and I asked many scholars, and no one said, I know the answer to this, because they weren't seekers. They were scholars, but they weren't seekers. So I said, what is hinabandi? Do you know what hinabandi is? Do you know what hinabandi is? What is hina? Mehndi. Mehndi. And what is the object of applying hina? To beautify. So the angels complain to Allah that this Iqbal bada gustakh hai, karta hai fitrat ki hina bandi. He puts hina on fitra. In fitra there is imperfect. How can you beautify the imperfect? Iqbal in his journey beautifies the imperfect. He said, then they say, khaki hai magar, iske andaz hai aflaki. He is one of earth, but his style is like the people of the heavens. Khaki hai magar, iske andaz hai aflaki. Rumi hai na Shami, Kashi na Samarkandi. He doesn't care about which country you belong to, which caste you belong to, which social status you belong to. He's risen above that. And he's looking at the human race in a different way. And then he says in the end, the Maqta, he says, सिखलाई फरिश्तों को आदम की तड़प इसने सिखलाई फरिश्तों को आदम की तड़प इसने. He taught the angels. Human teaches angels. Yeah, possible. Iblis is a jinn. If he can be the teacher of angels, why can't humans be the teacher of angels? He says, सिखलाई फरिश्तों को आदम की तड़प इसने. The pain and the tribulation of man, he told that to the angels. Even the angels trembled by listening to what the human being has to go through. सिखलाई फरिश्तों को आदम की तड़प इसने आदम को सिखाता है आदाब खुदाबंदी. He teaches the human being the etiquettes of खुदाबंदी. So therefore, haqiq and ma'rifat is about knowing Allah, who He is, what does He want from us, what is, we can't say what is His reality because that's very arrogant. For me to say, I want to know the reality of this bottle isn't an arrogant statement because the creation of this bottle is within the province of this universe. And anything that is within the province of this universe, the Quran has an invitation. وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. They pay attention to the creation of the heavens and the earth. Fine. But to say, I want to know Allah's reality, that's arrogant. So the people of the journey, the people of the way, they say, we want to know Allah's ma'rifah, acquaintance. And now here's where the trick lies. The seeker wants Sharia. The seeker wants Tariqah. The seeker wants Haqiqat. But when it comes to Ma'rifah, Allah Himself wants to be known. Allah Himself wants to be known. And that's why He says in the Hadith al-Qudsi, كُنْتُ كَنْزًا مَخْفِيًّا فَأَحْبَبْتُ أَنْ أُعْرَفْ. I was a hidden treasure. فَأَحْبَبْتُ أَنْ أُعْرَفْ. This is an autobiography of Allah, talking about Himself. كُنْتُ كَنْزًا مَخْفِيًّا. I was a hidden treasure. فَأَحْبَبْتُ أَنْ أُعْرَفْ. And I wanted to be known. فَخَلَقْتُ خَلْقًا. And I created creation. So what was the purpose of creation? So that I could be known. But if you want to know me, don't think this brain will be able to know me and understand me. This brain is just like a calculator. The capacity of a calculator is limited. This brain has a limited number of course, we only use a few, we don't use it to the full capacity, but despite whatever it is, it's a calculator. But there is another way of knowing me, and that is not through your brain. There's another part of your components, of your structure. It's called your heart. If you want to know me, come, explore within yourself, and you'll find me. Explore within. You don't have to find me in jungles or in mountains or in universities. You don't have to go anywhere. I'm here. I'm here. And so therefore, but to find me through your heart, you have to apply your heart. And what is the power of the heart? The power of the heart is not reason. The power of the mind is reason. The power of the heart, ladies and gentlemen, is love. Through love, if you come to me, then I won't look at your faults. Then I won't look at your mistakes. I will say, what does he have in coming towards me? Love. And that's enough. Now, at this juncture, I remember this shir where the Shaykh transcribes the message of Allah in this hadith. كُنْتُ كَنْزًا مَخْفِيًّا فَأَحْبَبْتُ. I was a hidden treasure, I wanted to be known. He says, the shir is, तुमसे उल्फत के तकाज़े न निभाए जाते तुमसे उल्फत के तकाज़े न निभाए जाते वरना हमको भी तमन्ना थी कि चाहे जाते. You just couldn't fulfill the protocols of love. Otherwise, I want you to be known. All you need to do is surrender yourself to me in love. Not because you are afraid of me, or because you are scared of hell and want, or the seduction of heaven. Not because you want to progress in dunya. You want me because you really want me. And you want to know me. You know, if a child grew up and didn't know its biological father, no matter how much in love that child would be to its stepfather, there will always be an inquisition in that child. I want to know my biological. I want to know the one who I came from. I want to know my roots. But when you realize that this whole universe is the produce of Him, and when you realize that you cannot understand this universe on your own, you need Him. So we say, I tell you what, we'll carry this pursuit, but we'll also submit and surrender ourselves in love to Him. Why? Through love, He will give us what otherwise we are unable to attain. That is why Shaykh al-Akbar, Muhyiddin ibn Arabi, alayhi rahmah, he says, I reached a stage in my journey where Allah gave me the knowledge of this entire universe at my disposal. And He said, I put it aside. Why? Because that wasn't my objective. My objective was Allah. Oh Allah, I want to know you. I want to know you. Who are you? This universe is insignificant as far as, in fact, this universe is one of many. There are many universes. Oh Allah, which universe should I immerse myself in? I'm not interested in this. I'm interested in you. La maqsood illa Allah. La matloob illa Allah. That's the chant of the friends of Allah, the awliya. They say, yeah, we read the Maal, we give zakat, we go to Hajj. But what is our objective? La maqsood illa Allah. And then when we reach our maqsood, our objective, then we say, La mawjood illa Allah. There is nothing illa Allah. We are just insignificant. So therefore, the subject matter of the Quran can be divided, broadly speaking, into 4 parts. Now let's move on. Surah Fatiha. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Let's translate this. All praise be to Allah, who is the sustainer of this Alameen. Many translators have got it wrong. They say Lord of the Alameen, Lord of the universe. Rabb does not mean Lord. Mawla means Lord. There are many other words for Lord. Allah chooses His words carefully. Remember, Surah Fatiha is a summary of the whole Quran. And Allah chooses those words very carefully. Alhamdulillah, all praise are for Allah. And how does He introduce Himself? Not Khaliqul Alameen. Not Malikul Alameen. He says Rabbul Alameen. Why? We'll ask this question in a minute. Then he carries on. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Let's just do the literal translation. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. The most beneficent, the most merciful. If you look at the meaning of both words in the English language, the effect of them is the same. If you go to an Englishman and say beneficent and merciful, he'll say this is one and the same thing. Why would Allah say one and the same thing but use different words? Could He not have used any other attribute of this? Ar-Rahmanul Kareem. Allah could have used anything. But no, He chooses His words carefully. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Then He says, Maliki Yawmiddin, owner of the day of judgment. Deen. Then He says, Iyyaka na'budu. Exclusively we worship and will worship only You. and exclusively only we ask your help, we seek your help. Then he says, now, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Show me the straight path. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم, the path of those whom you have been favorable towards, or you have favored. صراط المستقيم, صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب, not the path of those whom you have become angry with, ولا الضالين, or those who have been misguided. This is the literal translation. Now let's examine the words. Alhamdu. What does alhamdu mean? All praise. Hamd is an exclusive word for Allah. What does it mean? Praise. But in Islamic law, you cannot use this word for anyone other than Allah. So you can't say, I am doing your hamd. If I want to praise you, I am doing your hamd. No. The word hamd is exclusive for yet. The one who is praised in Arabic, who is praised? But in Arabic language, the word used for the one who is the subject of hamd is Muhammad. But Allah doesn't call himself Muhammad. Yet he says, Alhamdulillah. All praise are for Allah. Some other time we will talk about that. I don't want to go into too much depth. The correlationship between Alhamdulillah and Muhammad. No one has talked about this. Allah is saying all praise is for Allah. And yet he doesn't call himself Muhammad. He calls his beloved Muhammad. He calls his beloved Muhammad. Isn't it a ajib conundrum in our minds? He is all worthy of praise, but no sect ever said, Ya Muhammad, I'm calling Allah. Yet what does Muhammad mean? The one who is praised. But Allah says, no. So we say, Muhammad is not Allah, but Allah is Muhammad from a literalistic perspective. From a literalistic. You understand this now? Huh? What did I say?
Allah is Muhammad.
Allah is Muhammad, but Muhammad is not Allah. From a linguistic perspective. But that's why they say, what's that share? Nabi ko apna khuda na mano. Nabi ko apna khuda na mano. Khuda se lekin juda na jano. Ye ahle sunnat ka hai aqeeda, Nabi Nabi hai, Khuda Khuda hai. So in our minds we are very clear. Allah is Allah, Nabi is Nabi. There's no difference. He is Khaliq, he is Makhluk. But this conundrum is presented to us by virtue of the word Alhamdu, all praise be to Allah. So then if all praise are for Allah, the question is, why is his beloved Muhammad and why not Allah being Muhammad? There are many answers for this, and again I can speak for the next 2-3 hours on this. But the simple answer is that we praise Allah's hamd. And the one who is the worthy of hamd, he praises Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When the one who is praised praises, therefore he gave him the name Muhammad. And the funny thing is, not the funny thing as in funny, but as in the beautiful thing is, when he was in the heavens before he came, his name was Ahmad, the one who praises the most. And when he came on this earth, he was Muhammad. And when he goes on the day of rises on the day of judgment, he will be referred to as Mahmud. That is why the Prophet ﷺ said in a Sahih Hadith, Muwatta Imam Malik, that whoever has the name Muhammad, Ahmad or Mahmud in his name on the day of judgment, I will come and find him myself. So I think we need to organize some depots, statutory depots. Insert in your name Muhammad, Ahmad, Mahmud. Why? Because the Prophet says, I will come and find him myself. Right. So Alhamdulillah, all praise are for Allah. Now here, Allah could have said, Alhamdulillah Rahman, or Alhamdulillah Jabbar, Alhamdulillah Qahhar. But then he said, Lillah, Allah. Why use the word Allah here? For your information, Allah has not 99 names. 99, the digit has a special coordination attached to it. Allah has more than 99 names. But none of those names are His personal names. None of those names are His personal name. His personal name is Allah. No religion in the world will tell you Allah's name. They will describe Him, God, Khud, Khuda. No one will give you His name. He has given His own name Himself. Yeah. Alhamdulillah, Allah, they are for Allah. And now I can go into detail about the meaning of the word Allah, but we'll save that for another day. Let's move on. Rabb. What is the meaning of Rabb? Sustainer. A mother is called a Murabbi also. Why? Because the definition of a sustainer is the one who sustains from beginning to end. So a mother sustains the child from the beginning of its existence in its universe, in its stomach, in her stomach, from the beginning to the end. So the mother is on that basis a Rabb, but not, of course, the Rabb like Allah is Rabb. But, and I just want to clarify this point because I don't want someone later to hear this and think, well, how can you say a mother is Rabb? Rabb is Allah and this is shirk. No. Rabb is an attribute. Sometimes makhluk, creation, can possess a similar attribute, but that similarity is just one in name. In reality, there is no similarity between Allah's attribute and His creation's attribute. For example, let me give you an example. All of us sitting in the room, hopefully, we are hayy. We are living. Yeah, hopefully. I said, we are living. We are alive. And Allah is hayy. So if I say, we are hayy, I am hayy, is that shirk? No. Allah is Samir. Allah is Basir. Allah sees, He hears. We see, we hear. We don't say now this is shirk. Because our hearing and our seeing is hearing and seeing as makhluk. And His hearing is seeing and hearing as Khaliq. So it's different. So when I say mother is Rabb, it doesn't mean now this is shirk. I didn't want anyone to hear this statement and say, oh wow, this is an invitation or opening the door of shirk. No. Mother is Rabb as makhluk. But the Rabb of this alameen, He introduces Himself as a Rabb of this alameen. He says that I am the sustainer. So from the beginning of its reality to the end of its reality, I sustain it. Sustain what? Rabbil Alameen, the Alameen. And I've already said to you, if you recall, that this Alameen is only one of Allah's creation. This is not the end of Allah's creation. There are many Alameens, and this is just one of them. But the Quran and the province of the Quran is for who? The humans? Muslims? No. Me and you have limited the Quran in its application. But Allah Azza wa Jal says that the Quran and its application is for the Alameen. Zikra lil Alameen, the Quran says. تبارك الذي نزل الفرقان على عبده لِيَكُونَ لِلْعَالَمِينَ نَذِيرًا. So the Quran and its contents are for the Alameen. And that's why Allah introduces His Rububiyyat by virtue of the Alameen. Because beyond the Alameen, there is creation. But we cannot fathom that creation. We cannot fathom that creation. We cannot fathom that creation. And I say it for the first time, we cannot fathom that creation. But we are that creation that is beyond this Alameen. We are. Alhamdulillah. We'll talk about that some other day. Alameen. Then Allah says, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Rahman. By the way, in the Alameen is divided into 8 parts from a graphic point of view. The Quran, Hakikat. سبع سماوات طباقا. There are 7 heavens. Then there's the earth. وَالَّذِي خَلَقَكُم مَّا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. There is the heavens and the earth. And then on top of this, on top of the 7 heavens, there is Jannah. On top of Jannah, I'm just explaining some geography. On top of Jannah, Jannah has 7 grades. There's 7 Jannahs. Jannatul Adam, Jannatul Na'im, Jannatul Ridwan. And then the one right at the top is Jannatul Firdaus. The one right at the top. 7 heavens. And the one which is Jannatul Firdaus, where that finishes, that's where the Arsh of Allah starts from. All within this Alameen. And then from the Alameen, from the Arsh of Allah on وَكَانَ عَرْشُهُ عَلَى الْمَاءِ. And then the Kursi is upon the Arsh. And that is the sequence of this Alameen. So, Rabbil Alameen. This Alameen is just a limited ball. Limited ball. And I want to now introduce a share of Allama Iqbal, which shows you that this seeker, how far he had gone. How far this man had gone. And he was just one. There are many others. But just because he's relatively modern, if I talk about someone old, then you'll say, oh, well, maybe different age, different person. Look how he describes this Alameen. He talks to Rasulullah. He says, Law bitu, qalam bitu. Remember what I said last week? Law mahfuz, qalam. He says to Rasulullah, Law bitu, qalam bitu, tera wujud al-kitab, gumbate aabgina rang. In this universe, which is round, water-like, because everything is made of water. وَالَّذِي خَلَقَكُم مِّنَ الْمَاءِ. He created كُلَّ شَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْمَاءِ. He created everything with water. So he says, "Gumbate aagina rang." This universe, which is water-like, Ya Rasulullah, tere muhit mein habab. It's just a small bubble in your presence. This is what you call a seeker. When you go to that level and you seek, then you realize the reality of this universe. You think it's very, very small. That is why a great Waliullah, his name was Hazrat al-Bahlal from Syria, about 900,000 years, maybe slightly more than that, 1100 years ago. He used to take 1 step forward, 1 step back, 1 step forward, 1 step back. Someone said to him, Bahlal, what are you doing? He said, this universe is very small. I take 1 step forward and it finishes. I take 1 step back and it starts. This whole universe isn't bigger than 2 steps of mine. So those who reached that state, for them this universe was very small. So And let's move on. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. He is Rahman. And why use the same connotation? Why not any other attribute? Because Allah Azza wa Jal governs this universe with many attributes, but the most dominant attribute in this universe is His Rahmah. And the Rahmah, both the words Rahman and Rahim, they come from the word Raham. Raham. You know what Raham is? One of the meanings of Raham is the womb of the mother. And the reason why they call the womb of the mother Rahim is because in that womb, that child is sustained, protected unconditionally, not subject to contract, or subject to political status or social status. Unconditionally sustained, protected, sealed from the outside world. So this universe is protected, despite its imperfections, despite its anomalies. It is regulated by the Raham of Allah. But the Raham of Allah expresses itself differently in different contexts. So for all the universe, it expresses itself through Ar-Rahman. But for the mu'min, there is a special privilege of Rahmah, and that is through the attribute of Rahim. That's why it says Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Now he goes on and says, Maliki Yawmiddin, owner of the day of judgment. Why was that necessary to say Maliki Yawmiddin? Why was that necessary? Would anyone dispute Maliki Yawmiddin? That he's the owner of the day? Why would that need to be emphasized? Because one of the effects of the word Malik, it means now, whatever happens, there is no discretion. I am the Malik of this bottle. Whatever happens to this bottle is my discretion. But in the dunya, even though I am Malik, Allah says, even though I am Malik, I have given you discretion. I have given you discretion. But on that day, that discretion will come back to me. That's why he says, Liman al-mulkul yawm. Who is the Malik of this day? But there's something very interesting in this. Malik. He's the owner. He owns. Why would he want to express his sovereignty on that day? Because before he created this universe, note my words very carefully. This isn't a lecture which is just in the heat of the moment. Before he created this universe, he offered discretion to the heavens. They refused it. He offered discretion to mountains, to the earth. They refused it. We don't want it. I don't want discretion. You know what discretion is? Choice. The ability to do right or wrong. He offered discretion to different aspects of the universe. All of them said no thank you. But then when he offered it to the human being, the Quran says, فَحَمَلَهُ الْإِنسَانِ Insan said, yes, thank you, I'll have it. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ He doesn't know what he said himself in. You know, we do that, don't we, sometimes? We say, all right, go on then, I'll do it. Not realizing the connotations of that. That's part of our nature. That's part of our nature. Insan has certain attributes that he cannot or she cannot escape from. And then when you add the S to the he, oh, then it takes it to a different level. You cannot escape from certain things. So, everything has its fitrah, its nature. And when Allah offered the mountains, the water, earth, and when the same was offered to Insan said, bring it on. And Allah says, okay, in the earth, Now you are Malik. You can choose what you like. Even though I am Malik in Nas, but I am giving you, I think the technical word is devolution. I'm devolving powers. There you are. You can have. Yeah. Not the opposite. What's the opposite of devolution? Federalism. This is not federalism. Yeah. Allah gives us power. He devolves powers to us. We do not give power to Allah. So Allah says, Maliki Yawmiddin. But this Yawmiddin relates to those who are given discretion. Those who have no discretion, there is no hisab for them. So, for example, someone asked me. I was very troubled by this question for many months. The Quran says, "La taziru waziratan wizra ukhra." No soul will bear the weight of another. So when you see all these murtis who are the subject of worship in a mandir, for example, Allah says, وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ. On the day of judgment, they will be the fuel of the fire, these stones. In fact, Allah will ask the murtis, the statues on the day of judgment, Allah will talk to them. أَأَنْتُمْ أَضْلَلْتُمْ عِبَادِي. Did you misguide my servants? أَأَنْتُمْ. Who is asking the question? The one who knows. But this is a trial. This is a cross-examination. أَأَنْتُمْ أَضْلَلْتُمْ عِبَادِي. Did you misguide my servants to worship you? أَمْ هُمْ ضَلُّوا السَّبِيلِ. And they will respond. The murtis will respond. قَالُوا سُبْحَانَكَ. You know, like when you say something, did you do this? Subhanallah. Subhanallah. How can you say I did it? You know, I'm giving a very example so just to brighten the mood up. You know, an Imam Sahib farted. And the Muqtadi said, Imam Sahib, did you fart? He said, Subhanallah. Welcome. Is this something to say? Subhanallah. He said, no, you can't fart though. He said, no, you shouldn't mention this. So when you, the knee-jerk reaction to something that is odd, Subhanallah. What Subhanallah, what are you doing? We do this. So the angels will say, Subhanak. They're talking to Allah now. Ma kana yanbaghi. And they will converse with Allah. And nattakhidha min dunika. And then they will say, وَلَكِنْ مَتَّعْتَهُمْ وَآبَاءَهُمْ حَتَّى نَسُوا الذِّكْرَ وَكَانُوا قَوْمًا بُورًا. And they will give evidence on the day of judgment. Ya Allah, these people were engaged in dunya. And we didn't tell them. So a stone will talk. Geology hasn't reached the stage where it can describe the communication of stone. Yes, and Sir David Attenborough has talked about the behavior of animals, but the Quran talks about the personality of stones. Geology. This is geology. Haqiqat. قالوا سبحانك. And they're having a full-blown conversation. ولكن متعتهم وآباءهم حتى نسوا الذكر وكانوا قوما بورا. These are stones talking. And when we look at stones, we think they're dead. Science said here, if you talk to a stone, Section 10, mental health, you're in. Oh yes. You talk to a stone, inside. No space for you outside. But the Prophet ﷺ says, stones, when I used to walk, stones used to look at me and they used to say, As-salatu was-salamu alayka. Don't worry, you may not, science won't tell you this, but when the day of judgment comes, even the tree will say to the mu'min, it will talk to the mu'min. This is not Lord of the Rings. Oh yes, Lord of the Rings copied the Quran, where trees talk. The trees will say to the mu'min, oh mu'min, behind me is a Jew. He's hiding from you. Oh yes. But you can't prosecute the tree for anti-Semitism on the outside. They're immune from prosecution. If we say it, anti-Semitism. But the hadith says it, that the tree will talk to the mu'min. Oh mu'min, come behind me. There's a Jew hiding. Because the subject of the Quran and Sunnah point towards the fitna that will be caused by those who call themselves Jews. That doesn't mean to say all Jews are bad. There are some very good Jews who follow their book, even up till now. There are Jews who are against the creation of Palestine. But they will identify themselves as Jews, like people who do wrong and identify themselves as Muslims. Just because they identify themselves as Muslims and commit terrorist acts, that doesn't mean to say that now Islam is terrorist. No. They call themselves Muslims, they do, they're responsible for that. That likewise, they call themselves Jews, and they will hide behind trees. And the trees will talk. Botany hasn't reached that stage yet. You talk to a tree, section 10, mental health, you're in. Oh yes. But the Quran and Sunnah talk to us. Maliki yawmiddin. On that day, that discretion will be taken off you. La yatakallamuna illa man azina lahur rahman. No one will talk until they have the permission from Allah. Here you can use your, but there, no more discretion. Oh yes, no more discretion. Illa man azina lahur rahman. Except for when Allah gives permission, you will talk. And then not only will your tongue be commanded, your manners will be commanded also on the day of judgment. Lower your gaze. There will be a voice on the day of judgment. Lower your gaze. Why? For the lady of Jannah is passing by. Sayyida Fatima Zahra. She is passing by. Lower your gaze. So, Maliki Yawmiddin, now he's reasserting his absolute control. Malik, Deen, the day of accounting. Oh yes, accountancy. It's all there in the Quran. Surah Fatiha talks about accountancy. The day of accounting, that's more accurate as a translation. Maliki Yawmiddin, you know, Dain. Dain is debt. So, Deen. So therefore, Allah Azza wa Jal will hold us to account. And then he says, Iyaka na'budu. Alone we worship you. And you look at all the translations, they will give you this translation. Alone we worship you, and alone we seek your help. Do you see the relationship between the two? I follow you because you will lead me towards my destination. So the object of worship is help. Everyone follow me. The object of worship is I worship you and I seek help from you. It's not I seek help from you and then I worship you. Although most people today, that's how they conduct themselves. They just seek help from Allah, but when it comes to worship, they go, thank you, very busy. But the protocol is worship Him and seek help from Him. But the word nasta'in comes from the root word. No, before we go to nasta'in. I worship you. No, let's go to nasta'in. Then we'll come back to na'budu. Nasta'in, I seek your help. This comes from the word awnun in Arabic. Awnun. Awnun means madad mangna. Awnun. But Shaykh al-Akbar, Muhyiddin ibn Arabi alayhi rahmah, he does tafsir of this verse in a way that no one does tafsir. He says, one translation of this verse is, alone we worship you and alone we seek your help. But he says nasta'een also comes from the root word as well as awnun. It comes from the word aynun. Ayn. And what is ayn? To see. So alone, now you will translate this. Alone we worship you, and alone we see you. Now you understand. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. How you read? Ista'inu, usko dekho. Bis-sabri was-salah. With patience and salah. So one meaning is seek his help through sabr and salah. And one meaning is see him through sabr and salah. See him. Why? Because with sabr, inna Allah ma'as sabirin. And with salah, as-salatu mi'raj al-mu'minin. Salah is the mi'raj al-mu'minin. So alone, so here Shaykh al-Akbar says that the purpose of worship, Iyaka na'budu, the purpose of worship is to see Allah. Now we'll come back to na'budu. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam teaches it in the Sahih Hadith. وَعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ. Worship your Lord كَأَنَّكَ تَرَى, as if you see him. فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَى, even though you cannot see him. فَإِنَّهُ يَرَاكَ, he sees you. So your pursuit of worship must be to see him. That's why Shaykh al-Akbar says, Oh Allah, the dua is, Oh Allah, I only worship you to see you. Oh Allah, where are you? Oh Allah, I want you. I don't want this accountant to tell me that your neki is this much, or this accountant to tell me, both accountants. I don't want this one to reconcile my ledger and say, sorry, his bad deeds are more than... I don't want these accountants. Oh Allah, I don't worship you for these accountants. I worship you for you. And if I don't find you, then what am I doing worshipping? But when we worship Allah, what's our protocol? Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Thinking about how rude. You know, if someone is talking to you on the phone and he's talking to someone else, the person on the phone will say, are you taking the mic? Pretend you're on the phone with someone. And I'm talking to this gentleman. The person on the phone is going to swear at me and say, either talk to him or talk to me. How rude. Or if I'm talking to one gentleman and I start talking to another, I'm ignoring him, how is he going to feel? Surah Fatiha is a conversation with Allah. You start the conversation off not by saying, by talking, you start by praising him. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Malik. This is a praise. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een. I only worship you because I want to see you. But the problem is, I can't find you. I don't know where you are. Where do I go? Then the Shaykh says, fine. Allah, Allah. Karne se Allah na mile. Allah, Allah. Karne se Allah na mile. Allah wale Allah se mila dete hain. If by then Allah, 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 you can't find Allah, then go and find the friends of Allah. They will introduce you to Allah. Now that's why the next verse says, you want me? You want Allah? Then ask from me. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Ask from me the path of mustaqim. What is mustaqim? In most translators write down mustaqim is straight path. What is a straight path? I mean, it's quite confusing, isn't it? The straight path. Sirat al-mustaqim. If you look at the Quran, you will see that there is not one path to Allah. Allah believes in diversity, by the way, and equal opportunities. Oh yes. He says there is not one path to Allah. There are many paths to Allah. Why? All you have to do is seek. And then when you seek, Allah says Himself in the Quran, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا. When you struggle in our way to come towards us, لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. If you allow me to translate this with the sensitivity of the Arabic language, because some of these bloody translators, they don't know grammar, and they don't reflect the sensitivity of the Arabic language. If I do it in plain English, the Englishman will say, wow, that's not English. But you have to apply the sensitivity. لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ ज़ُلُول بِالزُّلُول हम दिखाएंगे उसको सुमुलना अपने रस्तों में से एक रास्ता या अपने रास्ते दिखाएंगे. We will show him our ways. So there's not one way to Allah, there's many ways to Allah. The problem is everyone's got a monopoly. Oh, no, it's my way, the one way is not his way. Only my way. But Allah has said, لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ subul. Subul is plural. Subulana. Many ways to Allah. And Allah said, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Guide me towards the path of mustaqim. What is mustaqim? Mustaqim isn't straight path. Unfortunately, the translators just applied one of the dictionary meaning straight. Mustaqim comes from the word istiqama. And istiqama means stability. Show me the path of stability. Who's me? The human being. The subject of this verse is the human and the jinn. Not the angel. Not the animal. Although the Quran is for all of them. But the human and the jinn ask Allah for the path of stability. Why do I need stability? Well, if I walk and I don't have stability, what will happen? I'll fall. So, Allah Azza wa Jal puts us in a situation where He tests our stability. How? وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ. These are 5 examination papers that Allah talks about in the Quran. And we'll talk about them later. Hum zulul azmayenge. What's that other verse? Alif Lam Mim. Hasib al-nasu. क्या इंसान ने सोच लिया कि वो बस कह देगा कि अल्लाह पे ईमान ले आए और उसको आजमाया ना जाएगा, उसको टटोला ना जाएगा. फकत कहने से बात नहीं बनती. Allah will examine your stability. I'll check how much you believe in Allah. I'll check how much you actually have faith in Allah. And I will give you some of min al-khawf, fear, wal-ju', hunger, wa naqsim min al-amwal, min al-khawf, fear, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ. And I'll lessen your bank balance and I will see how you react. Does your demeanor change when your bank balance changes? You know, when the bank balance is high, we are. And when it's low, our demeanor changes. وَنَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. Anfus is your breath as in your health. وَالثَّمَرَاتِ, and your fruits. We will take away your fruits from you. Imam Shafi'i, alayhi rahmah, just tafsir of this, and he says, fruits means your children. We will take away your children from you, as if your children will die in infancy, before puberty. So we will test you. But then when we test you, we will check your stability. How stable? So ask from me the path of stability. And that's why we say, if you want to learn the path of stability, Allah doesn't say, show me the Sirat al-Ladina an'amta alayhim. The ulama, if they wrote the Quran, they would say, Sirat al-Ladina, Sirat al-Ulama. If the ulama were authors of the Quran. But no, they're not authors of the Quran. The author says, which path? An'amta alayhim. Those who we have done in'am upon, who we have blessed. Oh Allah, who have you blessed? So Allah says in another verse, فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ. 4 groups who Allah has let me inam upon. What is the common denominator between all 4 groups? Istiqamah. They are all people of istiqamah. The problem is when we go to any one of these 4, we seek dunya, we don't seek istiqamah. That's why those who trade with the minds of people, they ensure that your mind is never stable. This problem, you need this taweez. This problem, you need this taweez. This problem, you need it. They create insecurity within you. But the people of Allah, they help you however they can. But their agenda is to make you stable. And if you want to measure whether you are benefiting from these 4, measure, since I have known him or her, has there been a difference in my stability? And if the answer is yes, you're benefiting. If the answer is no, then you're just doing ziyarat. That's what you're doing. You're doing ziyarat. That's all that's happening. Has my stability? I had the pleasure, I won't mention his name. I met an alim, he was from UP in India. What a dinosaur of an alim. Old alim, very learned from, he was 80 years old. And I went to his house and he was trembling. And I said, Kya hua, Hazrat? What happened? Barbaad ho gaye, miyan. Barbaad ho gaye. 80-year-old alim, so much knowledge. I thought, what must have rocked this man? It must have been something serious. I said, hua kya? He goes, bahu ne zindagi haram kar di hai. I said, ye bahu ki umar kitni hai? He said, bahu 18 saal ki hai. 18 साल के बहू ने 80 साल के बंदे को हिला के रख दिया. इस्तिकामत का आलम तो देखिए. An 18-year-old rocked the world of an 80-year-old with so much knowledge. His knowledge couldn't come to his assistance. Why? He had knowledge, he didn't have istiqamah. And it's easy to say in the masjid, I have istiqamah. But your istiqamah will be tested when you have problems. Harvey, now who do you call? I need to go somewhere. I need to go. This person sent a threat to me via Aqtab in the recent days and said, he doesn't answer my call, so I'm going to appoint it. I said, dunya, for dunya you'll go to, but why not go to the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings? He is saying, come to me, ask from me. So once a beggar went to a king to beg, and the king was busy. So he saw the king, and the king was doing dua. So he didn't know, the beggar didn't know what he was doing. So when he finished dua, the beggar said to the king, what were you doing? He said, I was begging from Allah. He said, oh, okay, see you. I'm going, bye-bye. He said, no, why did you come to me? He said, I came to beg from you. But now that I've seen you beg from him, why should I beg from you? I'll beg from him directly. We need a taweez for every problem of ours. Every problem of the taweez. And those who trade in this, this culture is designed. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with taweez. But the culture is designed to make us insecure. That you can't operate without a taweez. What is on the taweez is the verses of the Quran, the Jais taweez. It's verses of the Quran. If those verses can affect you when they were written on a piece of paper, imagine if you read those verses, how they will affect you. But we don't think about that. We think just whatever. We don't even look at what's written in the taweez. And someone could write hocus pocus. It doesn't matter. We just believe that it's going to happen. So therefore, the path of those who have been blessed. Blessed with what? Miracles? The problem is when we seek the path of these four people, Nabiyina was Siddiqi, the truthful, was Shuhada, the martyrs, was Tariqah, four group of people. The problem is two are now away from us. We can only access one Nabi, but the time of Isa alayhi salam. But other than that, there are two groups we can still access. Nabi, Siddiqi, Shuhada, we can't access them. And Salihin. Two groups that are mentioned that are the subject of this verse, and Amta alayhim. The problem is when we go to them, our emphasis is just dunya. I want this, I want that. It's not Allah. It's not istiqamah. It's not about help me with my journey. But the common denominator between all of these is istiqamah. And that's why Allah says, listen, you want to break the laws of nature? You want to break the laws of physics? You want to break the laws of reality? I'll tell you a secret. This is what we call Tafsir al-Quran bil-Quran. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهِ. Those people who say Allah is our Rabb, ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا صراط المستقيم. ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا صراط المستقيم. जिसने कहा رَبُّنَا اللَّهِ, Allah is my sustainer. As in, whatever my problem is, Allah is my sustainer. ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. And then it was stable. When the bank balance was high or when the job was good, then you say Allah is my sustainer? No. When times are low, when nothing is going your way, you still say, He is my sustainer. He is my sustainer. He will never let go of me. Subhanallah. When Musa alayhi salam was going to Madian, on his route to Madian, he asked Allah, yes, Allah, I'm going. What about my family? What will happen back then? There weren't welfare benefits in those days that they could claim. So he said, oh Allah, what about my family? It's a human question, isn't it? You know, when you talk to people and say, come in the way of Allah and work. No. Who's going to feed my family? By the way, I'm not opening the door now to you abandoning your jobs and saying, right, let's all just... No, but sometimes, ultimately, there has to be this trust in Allah. When people are like, oh, I'm busy, I've got a shift to do. I've got a shift, overtime shift. Yeah, earn more, not the basic shift, overtime shift. Why? Because I need to earn money. But Musa alayhi salam said, oh Allah, I want to ask you a very human question. Who's going to look after my family? I'm going in your path to do your work. What about my family? Allah Azza wa Jal said, oh Musa, his asa, his stick. Oh Musa, here's a stone, strike your asa on the stone. And Musa alayhi salam struck the staff on the stone. This is geology. If you look at the contents of what is within a stone, you will realize there's much more that meets the eye. How can water come from within a stone? Anyway, Musa struck the stone, and from within that stone, from when that stone cracked, from within that stone goes another stone. And Allah says, now hit the stone again with your staff. He hit it again. And within that stone, when it cracked, was another stone. Then he said, again, strike the stone. Slowly he struck the stone 7 times. And when he struck the stone on the 7th occasion, the stone, small stone, cracked into 2. And Musa saw an insect with food in its mouth. I'm looking at Musa. Is he going to go for me now? Is he going to hit me now? And Allah said, Musa, if I can provide food for this insect in 7 stones, you think I would forget your family?
Allah.
Nahnu narzuquk. We are the ones who provide. But I will test you. When you are in your low times, will you say, Rabbuna Allah then? Or will you say, oh, let's run towards someone who's going to solve a problem? There's plenty of, I call them rishis. I don't even call them peers. They're rishis. Yeah, if you want to Google who rishi is, oh yes. He's not the prettiest of sights, but yeah, I don't even give them the privilege of calling them peers. They're not peers, they're rishis. R-I-S-H-I. Problem is, we're looking for miracles. If you want miracles, you'll go to Tibetan monks, they'll give you miracles. They'll levitate for you. Is that not a miracle? Tibetan monks, they levitate. Is that not a miracle? Will you then follow them? If you go to certain Hindu sadhus and yogis, they will perform miracles. Will you then follow them? Is the criterion of the people of istiqamah miracles? We are deluded in the dunya, and that's why we follow anyone with miracles. But Allah says, the sign of my people isn't that they propagate themselves through miracles, they propagate themselves through stability. They are stable themselves, and they infuse stability in those who keep their company. So therefore, stability is the name of the game. So if miracles is our criterion, then we've got a very serious problem, because when the Dajjal comes, that's the first thing he's going to say is, excuse me, you want a miracle? Yeah, I'll give you a miracle. He'll go to a dead body and say, boom, rise, and the dead body will rise. He said, what more of a miracle do you want? So people, excuse my expression, I don't mean to offend anyone, people are looking for cheap thrills. Give me a miracle. Let me see something. But the people of Allah are not interested in entertaining people. Their idea is to guide them to the path of stability. That's why Allah says, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم, the path of those who you have blessed with the power of stability. The power of stability. You've given them that power of stability. So ask yourself this question tonight. Do I have someone in my life who is of stability? أنعمت عليهم? And if the answer is no, then your dua is not being accepted. And Allah says, if you want to test whether your dua is being accepted, we'll tell that to the end. So, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ, not the path of those who you'll be angry with. Now, I want to just finish up. I could say a lot more, but time is passing. غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ, not those who you've been angry with. Who have you been angry with, O Allah? Who have you been angry with? The tafsir al-Quran bil hadith is, this refers to Jewish people. Why Jews? Why Jews? Why has Allah been angry with Jews? What? They used to
kill the prophets.
MashaAllah. Excellent. Very good answer. They used to kill prophets. That's the correct answer. That's one of the answers. Without any reason, they used to murder prophets. Yeah. It was the Jewish rabbis who tried to crucify Isa alayhi salam. They weren't. It wasn't the Romans. The Romans they were statesmen. They were interested in their own government. But it was the Jews who tried to have him crucified. So they killed prophets, but they were also disrespectful towards prophets. Allah is angry with those who are disrespectful towards prophets. And also, namus of the prophets, those who defy the namus of prophets, they are the subjects of Allah's ghazab. And they kill without reason. That's one of the other reasons why the Jewish nation has been condemned in the Quran and Sunnah. And I say this not as an anti-Semitic remark, because as I said to you, there are good people who are Jews. But there are those who call themselves Jews but they kill. And I don't need to look at any history book. All you need to do is go to Palestine. A child does not know why he's sat there and someone shoots a bullet in his head. No reason. That is maghdubi alayhim. Allah is angry with them for that reason. They have persecuted prophets and they have persecuted people. And their persecution continues. Not all of them, the bad amongst them. So this isn't a universal statement against all Jews, in case someone heard this many years and said, well, this is anti-Semitism. No. As I said to you, they are good Jews. They are very pious Jews. But there are those who call themselves Jews and who commit these atrocities. But then when you do Tafsir al-Quran bil-Quran, one of the signs of the people who are the subject of Allah's anger are in this verse. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you believe, la tatawallaw qawman ghadiballahu maghdubi alayhim ghadiballahu. Ya la tatawallaw, don't be friends. Allah is telling you to choose your social circle. Oh yes. Now our social circle is dictated by other factors. Take talk. Likes, dislikes. This dictates our social circle. If someone has liked you enough, even though they may be a pedophile, we fall for it. We don't know they're a pedophile, but they've liked you enough. Or a predator, they've liked you. That's my social circle. But Allah tells you, choose your social circle. Why? لا تتولوا مت دوست بناو उसको غضب الله عليهم, upon whose Allah's anger has been implanted. Why? What are their signs? قد يئسوا من الآخرة. They are disillusioned with the Akhirah. They don't talk about the Akhirah. They don't talk about the account. They do actions without thinking of what is going to happen. Malik Yawmiddin, he will hold you to account. That's why when a mu'min conducts themselves in the wrong way, and you warn a mu'min and you say, be careful, you'll be held to account for this, he trembles. But in the mu'min of today, when you say, be careful, you'll be held to account for this, he says, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Or the ignorant Sunni, ignorant, they know you're talking about any other sect. Talk about her. The ignorant Sunni will say, oh no, you peace up बचा लेंगे ना मुझे. हाँ, और क्या काम है उनका? यहाँ हम जो मर्जी करें peace up बचा लेंगे. यहाँ शराब पिए, जुआ खेले, बदमाशी करें, peace up बड़े काबिल peace up बचा लेंगे. No. At the end of the day, مغضوب عليهم, one of their signs are, they will, when you sit in their company, they don't care about the hereafter. For them, this pie in the sky when you die, there's no evidence of it. Therefore, live. What's that advert? Work. I don't know. What's the Mars advert? Work, play, and
Work, rest, and play.
work. We know who's been eating Mars. Work, rest, and play. Play being the emphasis. That's the ghaya. We play to live. So, but now, Maghdubi, the people of Ghadab are those who their actions are not checked with the prospect. You know, it's like a director of a company who knows my accounts are going to be audited next November. Therefore, I'm going to make sure my spending is. So I can just. So every time he spends, he thinks, how can I justify this? Imran Sahib knows what I'm talking about. How can his mind starts ticking? How can we justify it? How can we tally it back? But the sign of a competent mu'min is every action of his is how can I, account for this in the hereafter. وَلَضَّالِّينَ, and those who are dhal, astray. I used to say when I was young, I couldn't say astray, I used to say ashtray. As I used to say, those who went astray. In my junior school, we used to call people who smoke faggots. Allah says, oh Allah, I know what the path of faggots. So, وَلَا-الضَّالِّينَ, not the path of those who have gone astray. And the Quran talks about the people who are dal, mudil. The Hadith says, which people are these? These are the Christians. Why? And this isn't, again, an anti-Christian remark. Because there are many pious Christians. But which Christians does this refer to? The Jews were too strict. And the Christians were too... You don't have to ask me. Just go to the Vatican. A religion which preaches God has statues of Greek gods in the Vatican. It's like having a murti of Ram and Sita in a masjid. How contradictory is that? You can't have a masjid with a murti, with a statue. Likewise, you cannot have a church with statues of gods. But if you go to the Vatican today, you'll see all statues of God. In fact, I said to, we'll just finish on this one. I said to one professor, I said, how do you explain all these statues in the Vatican? You know, the Vatican is like, for us, like Mecca. For them, it's the Vatican. Well, for most Christians. Nowadays, it's all different now. So he said, how do you explain statues in the... And he said to me, very simple. Like you have McDonald's in Mecca. I said, McDonald's in Mecca? He was a professor, by the way. And I thought he was just joking, but actually there was a lot. McDonald's, oh yes. There's a lot more to McDonald's than stuff in your face. Oh yes, there's a lot more to that. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that. Finally, the awliya use Surah Fatiha. For them, Surah Fatiha is the best balance. So they say one of the names of Surah Fatiha, there are many names. Shafia, Kafia, Rafia, there are many names. But they say if you are ever in depression, the best surah of the Quran to read is Surah Fatiha. It brings you back down to earth. So the problem is TikTok, all of these things. They make our brains tick fast. But when you read Surah Fatiha, it calms you down. It has a calming effect. So when the awliya used to find imbalances, they used to say, recite Surah Fatiha. Let's finish on that. Any questions before we conclude? Yes.
You were actually going to say about why your du'as are not going to be accepted, but you stopped.
Why, sorry?
Why our du'a will not be accepted, and then you stopped. You said you would say it at the end.
Why our dua will not be accepted?
Yes. You were saying, and then you said, I'll say that towards the end.
What was the context? Just remind me.
It was, how can I say, जब हम इबादत करते हैं, आप उसकी बात कर रहे थे. It was in the starting, the fourth section of the Quran.
Ma'rifah.
Yes. तो आप बोल रहे थे कि like आप अल्लाह से जब help मांगते हो, you worship Allah alone, then there is more to it. Like दुआ क्यों कबूल नहीं होती है? आपको मालूम कैसा होना चाहिए कि दुआ कबूल हो रही है या नहीं हो रही है?
The litmus test. The litmus test of whether your dua is being accepted isn't whether you have this, and this, and this. That's not the litmus test. The litmus test is there istiqamah in my life? Do I have the company of the people of istiqamah? And if I don't have the company of the people of istiqamah, then any istiqamah I have is short-lived. Because forget anyone else, shaitan will say, I'll test you out. Yeah. Because we ourselves cannot balance ourselves. You cannot be your own doctor. That's why the people of Allah, they will assist you in your istiqamah. They will assist you. So the litmus test of the acceptance of your dua in Surah Fatiha is, do I have a person of stability in my life. And that person of stability doesn't necessarily have to be, of course, your parents are people. Nowadays, parents are people of instability. They are more unstable than us. You know, once upon a time when a woman was married and she had problems and she went to her father would guide her. Now, the father is saying, no, you're right, you go and tell him, you go. It's all about, politics. So, istiqamah cannot be guaranteed from anyone other than those who Allah has given istiqamah to. And who are they? Four. Nabiyyina, this is the Quran. Was-Siddiqina, was-Shuhadai, was-Salihina. Nabiyyin, we can't access them. Shuhada, we can't access them. Siddiqin and Salihin, we can access them. What is the difference between Siddiq and Salih? Another day we'll talk about this. Because the time is passing, I've got to travel now in a short while. Any other questions before we do dua? اللهم صل وسلم دائما ابدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم يا رب بالمصطفى بلغ مقاصدنا واغفر لنا ما مضى يا واسع الكرم الہی ہم نے تیرے قرآن کی جستجو میں اپنا وقت تیرے گھر میں گزارا ہے الہی اس کو قبول فرما آمین مولا جو ہمارے سمجھنے میں بولنے میں سننے میں سنانے میں کوتاہی ہوئی ہے اسے معاف فرما آمین یا الہی ہمارے سینوں کو تیرے قرآن سے روشن فرما یا الہی اپنی معرفت سے روشن فرما شریعت طریقت اور حقیقت کے نور سے مجلہ فرما یا الہ العالمین ہمارا اٹھنا بیٹھنا تیری یاد میں گزرے ہمارا مرنا جینا تیری یاد میں گزرے الہی جو ہماری دنیا میں رکاوٹیں ہیں ان رکاوٹوں میں استقامت عطا فرما جو ہمارے دین میں رکاوٹیں ہیں ان میں استقامت عطا فرما اور اہل استقامت کی صحبت عطا فرما اور جو لوگ اس مجلس میں بیٹھے ہیں یا اللہ ان کے احوال پہ فضل اور احسان فرما مولا جو آ نہ سکے ان کو ہدایت عطا فرما جو آ کے اپنی زندگی میں تغیر کو اپنانا چاہتے ہیں یا اللہ ان کی پردہ غیب سے مدد فرما وصلی اللہ علی حبیبی سیدنا سندنا مولانا مرشدنا محمد و آلہ و صحبہ اجمعین برحمتک یا